Welcome back inside. We're in Studio 42. Dan Plesac, Pedro Martinez, Matt Vasgersian, Corbin Burnes on the mound for the Birds today. He's been really good, as advertised in Baltimore. Guy who's got a Cy Young Award in his pocket, and a guy who really came into his own in 2021 under the tutelage of Milwaukee pitching coach Chris Hook, who's terrific, who crafted his famous cut fastball. We're going to show you some data and show you how the cutter for Corbin Burnes is a little different after the dominant stretch he had in Milwaukee. And here it is. The whiff percentage is way down. Still an elite pitch, but the Orioles have him throwing it a little bit higher, and it's a little bit more in the heart of the plate. In fact, a lot more in the heart of the plate. That's not necessarily meaning it's a mistake. That could be by design because the Orioles want something different from this pitch. What does it look like on tape? We'll show you. I mean, again, it's going to be an elite pitch either way. Burnes, as a Brewer, threw that pitch lower and on the corners and got a lot more swing and miss. I mean, he could dot it at 95 plus elite velocity. As an Oriole, it's up a little bit more. It's getting more ground balls, but incrementally. That's the design, though. The Orioles wanted it to shape and result in something a little bit different than the Brewers did. Doesn't make it better or worse than it used to be. Again, still an elite pitch. But if we go back to some more data, you can see some more changes. The velocity has ticked up a little bit with what the Orioles are doing. Drop not as much, and the break is not as significant either. So it's really kind of a different shape of a pitch, and I'm really curious, as I have a three-time All-Star and a Hall of Famer here, as to your thoughts on what the Orioles have done with his signature pitch.
Well, I think, Pedro, you'll agree with this. Every offseason, you go into a year thinking, okay, what can I do different? What can I do better to make my arsenal of pitches look better? And I think what the Orioles are thinking is, hey, we want the break to be a little bit smaller. We don't want it to be as much vertical and horizontal. We want to control it. We want more ground balls. We think you're more of a ground ball pitcher. The key is, Pedro, you have to buy into this. If you're Corbin Burnes, you've got to buy into it.
Yeah, and he's young enough to do that. If it was an old goat like me, I would probably be hesitant to try anything else because I've been around so long that now I trust what I can do on my own. But he's young enough to actually make adjustment, and this is a league of adjustment. Also, he's coming into a new league. He needs all the information that's out there about how to get these guys out and probably save your bullets. That's the main reason. He was a strikeout threat in the National League. But coming out of the National League and going to the American League East, there's a lot of boppers that want to get that ball in the air. He had probably a lot more chances to get that ball in the air with those guys than he did in the National League, where he knew the league. He knew the players. He knew who he was facing. Now what he needs is all the information that they can give him and also make adjustment to a new league, new players, and new ways to save bullets, because he will go out there and strike out 12, 15, but his pitch count, well, they're going to need him here in Baltimore to be more economic with his pitch.
I think when we looked at that was a really great video you showed, Matt. The one thing I think he did a little bit better when he was a Brewer is that backdoor breaking ball that he would throw to lefties. Hitters kind of gave up on that pitch. It was 94 to 96 miles an hour. It seemed like that old shape that he had last year. He had an easier time throwing that backdoor pitch that starts a couple inches off the plate, brings it back onto the corner. Now everything's kind of coming down and into the lefties, and I think he's lost that feel of that backdoor cutter.
You know, I give him a lot of credit for allowing a new organization to reshape and recraft his signature pitch in a free agent year. This very easily could have blown up in his face, but again, he's elite. He's a little different. He can do it. Like
he is elite, and he's young enough to make adjustment on the fly. I think this guy is capable of doing anything else. And you were just talking about the backdoor. He can make that backdoor breaking ball come over with a slower velocity, which is what I've seen in some of those breaking balls. Have a lot more of a loop going down, kind of a 12 to 6 a break on the breaking ball, but it's also slower. It's not a really full out there, full cutter where it's 94, 95, and you're stressing your arm to actually throw that cutter and make it bite like it did. Now he can save some energy by just flipping the backdoor breaking ball and also using it with a little slower velocity, saving a little bit of strength in that arm.